Hello everybody and welcome back to a Slice, a Spice, and a Dice movie reviews. Now today we're going to be talking about a movie. It is called A Haunting in Connecticut Part 2, Ghost of Georgia. Now this sequel, or I should say alleged sequel, is allegedly the sequel to A Haunting in Connecticut, the original one from 2009. I love that movie, but we'll talk about what they tried to do with this alleged sequel. Building on the terror of The Haunting in Connecticut, this tale traces a young family's nightmarish descent into a centuries-old southern hell. When Andy Wyrick moves his wife Lisa and daughter Heidi to a historic home in Georgia, they quickly discover they are not the house's only inhabitants. Joined by Lisa's free-spirited sister Joyce, the family soon comes face to face with a mystery born of deranged desire. A haunting secret rising from underground and threatening to bring down anyone in its path. Okay, so when this started blasting itself all over my Netflix thing, trying to suggest it to me, I was like, oh, I didn't never know they made a sequel to this. It must be honestly, I was like straight to video, a recent movie, whatever. And I was like, how do they have Cicely Tyson on the cover? I was like, how did they do that? It looks just like her, but I was like, they must have used makeup and an actress that looks like her, because she is one of my favorite actresses. And I was like, well, that's kind of a low blow. Only until I went and looked it up and was like, before I watched it, and I was like, oh, this is 2013, and it was her. So I was like, really? Okay. So I was surprised she was in this. Again, like I said, I absolutely love her. I think she's amazing talent, and the movie business is going to miss her incredibly, as well as this world will. Obviously, she's no longer with us. So I was very surprised that they used her on the cover, although I definitely think they did that on purpose because of her star power. So let's go ahead on that note and talk about number one. Did the movie make me put my phone down? And does it deserve a slice, a spice, or a dice? With all that being said, I'm not going to tell you the major plot lines, the twist, anything like that. But if you do want to go into this movie completely not knowing anything of what's going to happen more than that little synopsis I just told you, then let this be your warning that we're entering Spoiler Nation. Now, when I went to IMDb, according to the screenwriter of the film, he said that, this was never meant to be a sequel to the original Haunting in Connecticut, but when Gold Circle got involved with it, they were doing both films or whatever, they were like, well, let's capitalize on that original franchise and just call this part 2. So very quickly, for me, that painted the entire vibe of this movie, because I was like, that is such a cheap shot. In addition to putting Cicely's, picture on the cover, the whole 9 yards, and maybe it's just that way for the Netflix thing, I don't know. But I was like, yeah. Now, this new film, the second one, whatever, Ghost of Georgia, it is allegedly based on these real-life hauntings of the Wyrick family, and there was even a TV movie made about it or whatever. It's called A Haunting in Georgia. I do want to go watch that now that I've seen this one, just to see okay, what's the real story behind this? So yes, this family, they move into a big southern home, and very quickly you're introduced into the movie seeing that the mother can see things. This is a generational thing. You very quickly learn that her little girl, she can also see things. So that's a thing that's going on. It's passed down from generation, and we enter into the movie with this. Now, as we've seen in a lot of films of this genre, the little girl, the daughter Heidi, she has an invisible friend, Mr. Gordy, and he is going to start warning her hey, look, your family's in danger, you've got to watch out, yada yada yada. And so it's just that creepy whole thing. These ghosts always seem to attach themselves to children, and this is just in general in this genre. And so that's going on, and of course the parents are noticing this. Now, the sister-in-law, which is the mother's sister, the husband's sister-in-law, she's gonna show up, and she's your typical oh, I'm kind of the bohemian sister, and I'm showing up, and I have my luggage, and I kind of want to live off you. And there's this little dysfunction going on there. You can tell the husband's not excited about this, and they have this old broken down RV on the property, and it's almost like she's like, oh, I'll stay in there, and that way I'm not in the house, whatever. And I was like, oh my god, all I can just imagine the smell of mildew in that. So with all that stuff, the general background information again, the story is set. So we have big southern house, family living there, a little bit of dysfunction, kids playing with invisible friends, weird stuff's happening on the property, so on and so forth. Now, they will do some investigating, and they will learn that this land used to be owned by a station master of the Underground Railroad. And so this whole thing starts to unveil itself. Now, we're going to have a lot of the typical stuff of, swinging, things happening with, and seemingly invisible people on it. The film does serve some creepy moments like that. Okay, so there's one scene where you see a guy who looks like he was probably, a slave from times past, and he's swinging on a swing, and you're kind of piecing this story together. Okay, so for me, here's the thing. Just that part alone, that premise, I was like, this is interesting. We didn't need to attach ourselves to a haunting in Connecticut over this. Okay, they've got the storyline. It's like, okay, I'm here for this. This this is creepy. This is scary. It has a lot of stuff going. So I couldn't get past the fact that they'd ripped off A Haunting in Connecticut, especially once I looked it up after I watched it, and it was like, oh yeah, that was just like a cheap shot, whatever. So, because I was like, you didn't need to do this. This could have been a standalone film, and it wouldn't have had this B-grade quality to it. The acting really wasn't that bad. I mean, for God's sake, Cicely was in there. I mean, she was amazing, of course. Jump scares, sure, had some of those. There was nothing in that context, for me at least, that I was like, oh my God, we haven't really seen this before. This isn't getting to me the way, I mean, if you compared it to A Haunting in Connecticut Part 1, I'm like, oh, that movie scared me. You know what I'm saying? This movie didn't scare me like that. It just, because I guess I was so baffled watching it, where the whole time I was like, why is this Part 2? I mean, I could not get past that. So, but the story was there, the acting was decent, the script was decent. All that stuff was there. Twists and turns, yeah, absolutely I had those. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you what they are. So all of that was there, except for they were going on that original film's name, and it just stole the thunder of what this movie could have been for me. Now, one of the central things in this whole film is finding out, who is this evil ghost? Who is, that aspect of it, which you will get to that in the ending. It's something that it's definitely like, oh, okay, got it. But it wasn't like a huge shocker. It wasn't anything like that. And again, another central part to this is the whole dynamic of, these women in this family being able to have these visions, and it goes to the daughter, but the mother doesn't want to accept it, and all that. So now, the main question in all this is, did it make me put my phone down? And does it deserve a slice, a spice, or a dice? So, did it make me put my phone down? No, it actually made me pick it up and start looking into it to be like, what am I watching? I thought this was Haunting in Connecticut. Why are we in Georgia? How is this tied together? I've said it 100 times in this review. It is what it is. Does it get a slice, a spice, or a dice? Honestly, I mean, I feel like maybe a slice, maybe a spice. Definitely not a dice. I mean, there's nothing horrifyingly gruesome in this. That's not like a, oh my God, I'm here for it. Any of that. If they had rebranded the movie on its own, it might have gotten a slice and a spice, hands down, from me. But I'm just going to actually give it just a damn slice, just a piece of cheesecake, because it was a decent movie, but it just fell short because of the title and that cheap gimmick. So that's it. I appreciate you watching. Now listen, if you want to hear me talk about true crime, dish on that, updates with what's going on, or story time type formats, then check out my true crime channel. It's going to be right here. It's called Report Live from a Sofa. That's it, everybody. Thank you for watching my little movie review, and until my next movie binge, I'll see you then.